Welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
I'm Josh.
You just said uh-oh.
Yeah, I dropped the peas on the floor.
I mean, oh. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Pretty good. Would you like me to get the piece for you?
No, it's all right.
I'll get
It's
it.
not
I'll get
essential.
it. I got it. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. We know how to start podcasts because we're professionals. How you been?
Uh-oh. I broke another part. Uh-oh. Okay. Hold on. Give me a sec. There we go.
Okay, so we
know how to do podcasts while building Lego sets. There we go. So I'm
it is
having
surprisingly
trouble with this
difficult to
set.
actually get something done, building a thing, and have an intelligent conversation. I don't have any.
I'm ready to be intelligent.
I don't have any idea if our discussions are intelligent or not, but we do talk for a while, so there's that. You're still working on putting the lights in the Land
this
Rover.
very awkward light kit. What are you working on?
I'm still working on the snow speeder model, and I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of ready to be done with this one. It's not very exciting. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I kind of thought it would be more fun, but it's kind of boring. I think partially because...
You're not painting it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing is painting it will make it look really cool, but it feels like it's going to be a lot harder to paint once it's put together. Like I probably should have...
Yeah, every model kit that I've put together on this show seems a little flat because you don't get to weather it. You don't get to put in that detail. And that's the part of that immersion into model kits that's really fun.
Yeah.
Like the mech suit is on my desk. And, I mean, it's neat and all. It holds my lightning cable for my phone so it doesn't fall behind my desk.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
handy little fella. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe once I get this one done, I'll spend one episode just trying to weather it here. I can do that.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun.
Don't have to pay attention.
You got a
Just,
cool
like,
mat now so we
dumps
don't
them.
mess up the table.
That's true. Yep. Well, outside of model kits, what's new?
Well, did people tune in to our riveting 2020 live presidential election coverage?
I sure hope not.
Yeah.
I
would have
wasn't
been
there.
disappointed. But something in the world did happen that I want to talk about
Okay.
that has affected me.
Oh, okay.
See that Alex Trebek died.
I did see that. And I know you are a big fan of Jeopardy.
I'm a big fan of Jeopardy because I watched Jeopardy with my dad since I was a little kid. Like, I got home from school, he got home from work, we sat down and we had Jeopardy time, just the two of us. And my dad, who graduated high school and joined the Air Force and has an amazing amount of potential, always told me that I had potential. But we always had this thing between each other where my dad would go, I'm the smartest man alive. So where, like, things as a child, you look at your parents, you're like, how did you do that? Like, the little magic tricks or, like, some little thing that is not as impressive to you as an adult because you learned it 10 years ago is fresh and new in their eyes. And anytime something like that would happen, he would always go, oh, it's because I'm the smartest man alive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then he would, like, in public would have not such a confident persona except with me while we were watching Jeopardy. So it was always this dual personality that he had. And I loved it. We got to the point where when, if you're not a fan of Jeopardy, it's an educational show. You guess trivia facts. I was the kid if we had...
Is there anybody in the world that doesn't know what Jeopardy is?
I don't know. Maybe they don't. Because they don't have... Like, I don't have cable TV anymore, so I can't tune into new episodes of Jeopardy.
Isn't it on network television?
Network television?
Yeah, like on ABC, not on cable.
Yeah, but I don't have those anymore. Oh, I don't
Anyway,
stream
sorry,
stuff.
I didn't mean... Go ahead.
But we would sit down and they have, the first round, there's a second round, and there's Final Jeopardy. And the way that Final Jeopardy works is that before they cut to the commercial, they go, this is the category. And it's U.S. presidents or European literature. And then they go to commercial. And when they go to commercial, the three contestants would bid. And then when it come back from commercial, they would answer the question. The very iconic Jeopardy noise would come up. So my dad and I would do a thing where they would announce the category. We would announce our answer before the commercials were over. Before they ever announced the question. This is the answer to this massively broad category.
Nice.
And we both got it right one time each.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Eleanor of the Aquitaine was the one that I got right.
Whoa.
Yup. Shebang.
That's pretty wild.
King Richard's mom, Eleanor of the Aquitaine. I don't remember which one he got right. But like even when he deployed, because he was in the Air Force, it was, I don't remember if that was when he was in the Gulf War or he would go like to different places all around the world for like a year at a time or long times. When email was, man, that sounds bad. When email was a thing.
Back in my day.
Yeah. I could write my dad email messages, but the messages from the military at the time were censored. So you would send a message to, a lot of Navy families know this, like if you send a message to a sailor, it's vetted to make sure there's nothing like really bad, so you don't pretty much ruin that person's morale and bad things can happen.
Oh.
So they would have to come up with like shorthand to talk to my dad about stuff, but I would always give him in the first message like the Final Jeopardy answer, and he would respond, or the question, because you got to put your answers in the form of a question. So he would respond, and so even like when we were really far away, we would have Jeopardy questions as the thing that like linked us together. And growing up, like I played football for a little while and I hated it. I played soccer in high school. You know, there weren't a whole lot, other than MacGyver, there weren't a whole lot of examples on TV to like, it's cool to be smart. And Jeopardy to me, through like Alex Trebek being that just very professional kind of leader in that aspect, like you were rewarded for being smart, for just knowing stuff, for being well read, for being just, artistic. And I appreciated that show so much, and I didn't really understand how much it like affected me until I sit down with my kids and they just don't care. And I'm like, no, this is awesome and this is great. And now I start this thing with my kids that whenever they're doing something and they show me what they did for school that day, I'm like, that's fantastic. Are you smarter than me yet? And they're like, what? I'm like, it is your goal in life to be smarter than me. And you have to start now because I'm way ahead of you. So get on.
And super humble. So
I never said that. But
that's cool.
And Alex Trebek, like, I know that Alex Trebek is an actor just like anything else. And I know that he is not the all-seeing, all-knowing sage of all things. But it was just nice to have that, like, that person that was kind of there and facilitated that time that I could have with my dad. And that time, like, as a kid, like, I remember when I tested to be gifted when I was in middle school, I got to go to, like, the Smart Kid gifted classes. And I was like, yeah, it's because I know stuff.
It's because I watched Jeopardy.
Because I watched Jeopardy. I could have conversations with adults about things that I really didn't fully understand, but I could have a surface level conversation,
right? Because
I knew of a person or an event and an anecdote or some little factoid about that thing because of Jeopardy. And when you're young, or when you're trying to network, or you're trying to convey a little bit of confidence, just the smallest little bit of relatability you can have with a group of people goes a long way for your confidence.
Yeah.
And I attribute a lot of that to just like little things I learned on Jeopardy or playing Trivial Pursuit or things like that. Yeah, like very outdated references as a kid I got because we would play board games or we would watch Jeopardy and the adults would be playing. So it was relevant to their earlier lives. But me as a kid caring about Ninja Turtles, they never asked about Ninja Turtles.
Because you weren't playing Ninja Turtle Edition. So if that was your thing, Jeopardy was your thing to have that kind of relationship with your dad, is there a thing like that now that Jeopardy won't be the same thing? I don't think it's going to go away, but it won't be the same thing. Is there something like that you can already see being that connection point between you and your kids, and that, for that same purpose?
Yeah. Cooking shows. My daughter and I, when she wakes up in the morning, I'm already awake. She will come crawl in bed and cuddle with me, and she always asks if we can watch. Oh, Matt Whitman's calling.
Matt Whitman is calling. Sorry, Matt.
We should let him in and we could talk about Jeopardy.
Yeah.
But she always wants to watch cooking shows. So we'd watch Bon Appetit or watch Munchie or Binging with Babish, Josh Weissman. She always likes to watch cooking show. And now my middle son also wants to do it. And so last night he actually helped me cook dinner.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's been it for my two youngest kids. That's our morning routine as we watch random YouTube cooking shows.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have anything like that is for from an educational perspective. You know, like we have definitely Star Wars is a thing in our family that we all kind of bond over and enjoy, but it doesn't necessarily push us to be more or better, or it's, you know, there's no competition to it or anything like that.
And Alex Trebek he died of prostate cancer. And like my mom died of cancer, and so like when it was announced, he announced it that he had cancer. Like that sucked because it's yet another person. And again, he doesn't know me. I've never met him. It was always a dream of mine to try out for Jeopardy. And my dad and I talked about it because they had tryouts in New Orleans one time when I was in middle school, maybe. And it was like, oh, you can go on the Kids Jeopardy. And I got mad because Kids Jeopardy was way too easy. I thought they pandered, and I did not want to play Kids Jeopardy. I wanted to play real Jeopardy and beat people. But we did not get to go try out for Jeopardy.
Full contact Jeopardy.
Yeah, and now that I'm older, I'm way stupider than I was back in the day, and I've been out of practice. And I tried out for the... Ooh, this is my downfall, which producers of Jeopardy, I know you're listening to this show, so...
They do that.
Listen up. When you have an online Jeopardy test, I know the answer, but they make me spell all of the answers on the online aptitude test. I don't know if you know this about me, people of the world, executive producers of Jeopardy. I can't spell, like, at all. Comedically bad, I can't spell.
It is kind of bad.
So I could be the first contestant in Jeopardy history to answer Eleanor the Aquitaine before they ask me the question, but it's going to be spelled wrong. It's going to be spelled Eeyore of the Ugwibudz, and I'm not going to be able to win all the money.
Yeah. That's problematic.
And even then,
oh no.
If you fudge the spelling at the end and good old Alex can read it, he'll give you credit. I mean, come on. Those pens don't write really well.
That's true. Do you think that's on purpose? Like they do that to give everybody a little bit of...
No, but as a kid, it gave me hope.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, well, I can't spell it, so I'll just try to write it in cursive.
Yeah.
And he's just going to have to sound it out really, really easy, and hopefully that he has a little bit of just warmness in his heart to not read.
That's funny.
Eeyore of the Ugwibudz. I
saw that he had recorded quite a few episodes.
Up to a week before he died.
Wow.
His last show has already been, I mean, obviously he taped it, but it's going to come out on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And I'll just cry.
It's going to be an interesting show for a lot of people who have, I mean, good grief. I don't even know how long he'd been doing that. Definitely my entire life.
Yep.
It's just one of those things that kind of always has been, you know, from my perspective, in my life, just always been there. That and Wheel of Fortune are just two things that were before me, and I just assumed would always be after me.
Wheel of Fortune. Well, let's watch the show that requires you to spell stuff. Yeah, sure. Let's get on that. No thanks.
That's funny. Well, I'm sorry that you know, I understand how that could have an effect on you with having that much history with it, but, you know, I guess that's the way things go.
Yep.
Stuff moves on.
Yep.
We've continued to watch more Wonder Years since we talked about it last time. And that show keeps doing that thing to me that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Whatever that thing is that just makes me go, oh, yeah, like I can totally identify with the kid and the dad. I don't like that. But yeah, it's had a few more moments like that. And then there was an episode a couple days ago where the two brothers, the main character and his brother who's like 2 years older, who just calls him Butthead all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like Butthead.
I totally forgot about that.
It's hilarious. That dynamic is really funny. But that kid's character doesn't do anything. He's eating in every scene, we noticed. He's always putting something in his mouth, and all he does is call his brother a Butthead. That's it. But there was an episode last night about them having shared a room, and they were both teenagers, and they just fought all the time. And their older sister went to college, so the room was free, and then they fought about who was moving out, and they fought about it so much that they lost the chance to move out. Like, they lost the room because they were fighting, and their dad was like, I'm done. I don't care. There's apparently a parade happening above us. But the whole thing was about them being so sick of each other because they had to share this room. And then when it came time for them to actually separate and be in different rooms, they fought about it so much that they realized that they didn't want to be they did want separate rooms, but it was kind of an inflection point in their relationship. They realized that being together and having that room was a big part, and their like animosity was part of who they were. And so it had a whole, kind of takeaway. There's always like a little Jack Handy moment at the end of every episode. And it was that about how much, as an adult, he looked back on the time that they shared a room as being really important for them. And I immediately thought about my 3 boys who share a room and how they, it's a big room, granted, but they still step on each other. They still, well, this thing's mine, but it was laying on my desk. But it was, my chair was pushed up against the desk, and so it's mine, and it's that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. I'm like, I can totally take this episode of this weird show that was made forever ago and apply it to today.
Yeah.
And it keeps doing that. And that's the thing that's kind of weird. It's not just like every once in a while. Pretty much every episode, there's something about it that I can internalize. And so now, when we sit down to watch a show at night, that's the show that we're watching. We just like...
Everybody all together?
No. For a reason. But Jenny and I are just watching that. But now I sit down and I go, oh yeah, let's watch Wonder Years. Ugh. Like, I know that feeling's coming at the end. Maybe I don't want to watch it, but I do. Because it's like good stuff. It's like remembering how lucky you are and paying attention to what you have.
It's like all the ghosts of Christmas future and past making you watch a show.
Yeah. It is very much like that. So, anyway, I've been going through that feeling, every night. But it is good, and I would highly recommend anybody anybody, whether you have kids or not, but especially if you have kids, I think it's a good show to watch. Even if you don't identify with, like, the time that it took place or, the particular family situation or anything like that.
In the opening theme song, A Little Help from My Friends, was it Joe Crocker that sings it?
I'm not sure who does that version of it.
I think Joe Crocker does that. But I remember hearing Ringo Starr's version and going, ugh, this is terrible. I like that version of that song so much better than Ringo Starr's muddy, boring version.
It is a good version of it, and there's actually 2 different versions. We realized that about season 3 or something, it's extended a little bit, and they add this whole piece to it, and there's like a backup group that sings with them, and so it changed at some point. And we keep seeing these other actors come into the show who were kids at the time, and we're like, oh look, it's the thing with the guy from the thing. Yeah. And last night it was I can't remember his name now. I looked him up, but he was on someone say C-Lab. I don't know if it was C-Lab.
C-Lab is... Oh, I know. The kid who could talk to the dolphin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
was such a cool show.
Turned out I looked up to him, look into him, and apparently he ended up committing suicide a few years back.
That's a shame.
Yeah. He, had a career, and then it kind of fell off, and then led him down a path, So that was kind of a bummer to see. But at the time, I was like, oh, I know that guy. He was in C-Lab or whatever that show was called. And then
C-Lab 2020?
2030?
20-something?
32? Yeah. I don't know. He was also in Neverending Story 2.
Yep.
He was the main character.
He sure was.
So, anyway, and there were a couple other people in that episode last night.
I feel he was in some kind of martial arts movie.
Is he one of the 3 ninjas?
Maybe?
I don't remember that one. I just remember that movie. I don't remember anything about it.
Saw that in the theaters. That was cool.
But like Giovanni Ribisi? That guy? You know what I'm talking about.
Not a fan of that guy.
He was in an episode.
Giovanni Fabrizi, I think is his name.
Robermsi.
Yeah.
That guy. You know what we're talking about. Anyway, it's been interesting to see several people who were very young at the time, and it could have been like one of their first TV jobs. I don't really know, but we keep recognizing people.
It's fun how shows do that. Like, if you watch Seinfeld, you see almost everybody. If you watch Eeyore, you see almost everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Eeyore had a lot of people move through, for sure. But we're still on that, so I don't know how long. I think we have like 2 more seasons. So I'll just be feeling things for the next couple of months.
Well, that's good. if there's anything in particular that you need to flesh out, then
okay,
we can talk about it.
It's been good, though. I mean, it is like, it pulls up emotions, but overall, it's been a good thing to think through junior high school and high school age stuff again. I mean, I didn't really enjoy those times in my life that much, not like, I remember the days fondly. It was just like, that's just part of, But to look back on it through the lens of a TV show like that, I think it's been good for me just to put all that back in my head as my kids are getting into that age, you know, so it's a little more present. I just want to be thinking about the weird stuff that you think about again at that age, when you don't know what to do with yourself and you're like, you know, recognizing where you fit in like social groups and with, you know, boyfriends and girlfriends and all that type of stuff. But
I have noticed some girls around here.
Let's be clear. Teenage girls that are friends of my teenage son.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be really clear about what you mean there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So my oldest and a couple of his friends who are around the same age, some of their friends from school live in the neighborhood. They happen to be girls, and they're over here a lot to, you know, play on the trampoline and stuff outside. They all run around outside. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure all of those boys don't realize that they're girls.
Explain that one.
You know what I mean? Well, like, okay, so...
Health class must be very
No,
different
that's not what I
nowadays.
mean.
Oh,
Not
okay.
what I mean. Like, you know, there's a point when you're in school
Oh, I get it.
and you're like, there's girls around, and girls kind of smell bad and they're gross and like they do weird stuff that I don't get and like whatever. I don't care about girls. I'm just gonna go play with my friends.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where you're like, oh,
It's
there's
a girl.
there's girls coming.
Whoa.
That thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think, at least my son, is at the point where he realizes that those are girls. And I'm waiting for the day when he starts to realize that, oh, there's like attractive, really nice, really well-mannered girls who are coming over, actively leaving their houses to come to his house to hang out and spend time with him. He doesn't get it yet. And I hope he does at some point. But what's kind of ironic is one of these girls, and they're both, the two that have been around are really nice and really well-behaved, and like, you know, I'm glad to have them around. But one of them is the daughter of a girl that I grew up with, who also lives in the neighborhood, who's very nice. She's a teacher now and everything. But we were the same age growing up and in very different circles. She was cheerleader, popular, you know, just ran in a different group. And we never had anything negative between us or anything, but it was just like she was in the cool kind of over there. I was the weirdo me that I've always been. Not necessarily cool or uncool, just kind of like, I don't know.
Well, you showed her.
No,
You're
I
internet
don't mean
famous.
that at all. I mean, it's interesting because like I just, for no particular reason, had the unfounded feeling that like my kids will be oddballs like I was.
Oh,
And that's fine. That's cool. I turned out all right. I'm happy, you know. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to be oddballs. But it's funny to see that the generational separation of people when I was growing up is not carrying over to this generation. Like our, you know, I want to say different sides of the tracks, and that's absolutely not the case. It's just like different types of people. These kids are hanging out and having fun and playing games and stuff, and I think it's really cool. So, yeah, but it's fun to see a neighborhood little, no, not gang in a negative way, but like a gang of kids
gang. Yep.
has just appeared. So it's like my kids and their immediate neighbors play, and there's an age, you know, range there. And then these girls live down the street, and so they know each other from school, so they come around and play. And then these girls have two cousin boys who are around the same age, and they're here all the time. They live somewhere else, but their grandparents are in the neighborhood, so they're always here too. So they come around. So there's this group of, I don't know, 10.
Hoodlums.
Yeah.
Street toughs.
And they all ride bikes, and they all wear helmets, so we don't have to like get onto them about any of that. You know, it's just like that's a thing they do, and it's, I don't know, it's fun to see like my kids are just like, hey, I want to go on a bike ride with so and so and so and so. Awesome, have fun.
That's one thing
I'm really happy about that.
like. I'm a little jealous of for my kids because there's a couple kids like not really in our neighborhood, and I see your kids just like having like the bike gang.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids don't have a bike gang. Need to try to do a very specific target marketing to people so my kids can have a bike gang.
So make up some flyers, go put them on every door. Would
Yep.
you like to join my gang?
Yep.
Just, yeah.
Secret handshake.
You'll get some good calls, I'm sure.
Our colors will be red,
and or blue. Yeah. I'm happy about that, but I do wish your kids would have something. And maybe they will, you know? I mean, like, neighborhoods change.
I mean, they have friends. They're just not like they're not proximity friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish more of them. And my kids don't like riding bikes. My oldest son just doesn't want to ride his bike, and we live on a hill. So there's not really like a lot of incentive to do so. But he has a friend that lives within bike riding distance. But he just doesn't want to. He can talk to them over email or over like the Facebook Kids Messenger thing. And that is enough for him.
Oh, no. I think I glued something shut by accident.
That's fun.
Not really.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Well, now, of the friends you talk about, the girl from high school that ran in different circles, I noticed since I moved here, like we run into random people that you grew up with, which is different for me because being around like a military town, a lot of the people that I went to high school with just left and are okay with leaving. And I don't live near where I grew up. How often do you run into like people like that?
Well, I mean, I don't leave the house very much.
That's true.
Corona aside, I just don't really leave the house that much because I like to be home. I live in a really pretty place. I have all my favorite things in my home.
This is all I need.
So, I mean, when I'm out, you know, like when we used to go to lunch all the time, we would often run into somebody that I grew up with. But I think I see a lot of people that I knew when I lived here before at a distance. But honestly, there's not a lot of people that I know. And when I left from high school, when I left town, I mean, there's like maybe 2, maybe 3 people outside of my family that I stayed in touch with. I didn't have a bad experience in high school or anything. I just wasn't really that close to the people that I was close to were really tight and very few. And I've always been that way. And so when I left, it wasn't like, I'm leaving all these people behind and I'm moving away. I just like went. And nobody missed me, and I didn't really miss anybody, except for my family, obviously. And so when I come back, even though I do often see people at a distance, I don't really know them. I knew them, you know. So it's not like I don't like, oh, wow, let's get together sometime and hang out.
There's not like some person that you really didn't like that you see every once in a while and you like skip an aisle or actively avoid?
No.
Okay.
The people that I had any sort of a negative thing with, I don't think are here anymore. Did I ever tell you about the bully I had?
I don't know. Tell me about it.
So there was this one guy. I don't know. I don't want to say his name because apparently he's a nice guy now. My cousin knows him. But there was this one kid, and he was a year older than me, and he was about 6 inches shorter than me. And I was small.
You had a Napoleon complex?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He was on the baseball team, and that made him feel like he was all the stuff. And so something about me he didn't like, and I never got a clear answer as to what it was. But I think if I were to run into anybody and not really know how to handle it, it might have been him. But I don't know where he lives. I don't know anything about him now. But we had this kind of one defining moment. So my freshman and sophomore year, he just like messed with me all the time. He would like come by me in the hall and, you know, shove his shoulder into me and like walk by and smack my locker clothes and stuff. He was always like saying weird stuff to me and passing in the hall, just trying to like provoke me. It was all that.
To you specifically?
Yeah. To me. It wasn't, I mean, he was kind of a jerk to everybody, but he targeted me, messed with me. And he was smaller than me, and I never really got that. Like, he wasn't threatening. It was just annoying, and he would make fun in crowds to get attention. Yeah. And I was an easy target, I guess, because I didn't fight back, or I didn't really, I don't know. So one time, I remember I was at my locker, and my friend Darren, we were like best friends, so we were always together in between classes, and we had a lot of classes together. And he made some comment about the two of us at my locker. And this, while he's yelling at us, this group of people just turns into that fight circle around the locker. And I'm like facing my locker trying to get my stuff to get to class. And it's a small hallway, but there's this circle of, people have gotten around it. And he's like yelling and in my face and doing all this stuff. And right behind us, there was a door. The way our hallways were, the corners were the doors for multiple teachers' offices and classrooms. So right behind us, there was this door. And the math teacher, Mr. Wise, who was also his baseball coach, stuck his arm out of this door, grabbed this kid by the back of his neck, and he just disappeared into this office. And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. Because, I was like flustered, but I wasn't going to do anything and whatever. And he just disappeared. The group dissipated. And I had to walk then across diagonally our school, which was a big square, to get to my French class. So go all the way across. I'm coming around the corner to go into my French class, and one of his baseball teammates comes running up, didn't see me, comes running up, and he was like, I just heard Bob Claggett beat up kid. I don't want to say his name, even though I want to, because it's like branded in my memory. And I stopped, and I was like, what? No, I didn't. And it was so funny because like the culture there of, I've got some news, and so beat so-and-so, and they fought on the thing, and it's like a total lie. Nothing happened at all, except he probably just got like a yelling at from his coach. Anyway, that was a really funny moment. But then, a couple weeks later, first period, I had physics or something, and I had to leave the class to go to my locker to get something and come right back. It's just down the hallway. And so I like walk out of the class, go to my locker, get my stuff, and on the way back, this kid is at his locker.
Bully kid?
Bully kid.
Yep.
At his locker, nobody else around. Walls are silent.
And then you heard the woo-woo.
No, and I walked...
rolled past.
And like he's at his locker, and I'm like, I have to pass his locker to get back to class. So I walk by and I'm like, hey man, I don't know why you don't like me. I don't know what the problem is, but if you want to take a swing, do it. There's nobody here.
That's very mature.
If you want to go, let's go right now and get it over with the expectation that he was going to beat me up and I was going to get beat up. And it was like, let's just do this and get it over with. I'm not being tough. If there's a real problem, let's handle it. And he was like, oh, no, man, we're cool. There's no problem. I'm like, so we're cool. You're not going to mess with him anymore, right? And he was like, oh, yeah, we're fine. Never heard a single word from this guy again, ever. And we still had like another 2 years of, or I guess a year of high school together because he was a year older than me. Never like, he didn't avoid me, but it was just like never a thing. It just stopped all of a sudden. And so I think if there were anybody that I were to run into around town, if I saw him, I would not exactly know how to, I wouldn't want there to be any negative feelings or anything, but like, how do you go up to somebody that you haven't seen in that long and be like, hey, remember that time I stood up to you in the hallway? Cool, man. You doing all right? It's like, I don't know what kind of conversation we would have. So I might avoid him, but I think everybody else. Yeah.
Have you ever been punched before?
I got punched one time when I was a kid, not like an adult punch. I was probably 4th grade or something like that. And this kid, Eric.
No problem saying Eric's name.
I don't even know what his last name was. I don't remember. He left
our fist.
He left our school in like the next year or something like that.
And went to jail?
Maybe.
For delinquents?
I don't know. But we were on the playground, and he punched me in the jaw. And I remember, that was a feeling I had never felt before.
Yep.
And granted,
it's a very interesting feeling.
4th or 5th grade kid. It probably didn't actually hit that hard, but yeah.
Yeah, but still. Like, it's the shock more than anything, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got in some fights when I was a kid, and then I got in a fight when I was in basic training, and I got punched a guy.
Did you punch first, or did you get punched first?
First. We were doing combatives, which is just like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you would go at like 80%. So it would be grappling with this guy, and this one guy was like the loudest mouth guy in our platoon. He was a showboater, annoyed me to no end, because I was there to just be quiet and do what they wanted me to do so I could leave. And this guy was not. And he was like, physically, he was way stronger than me, and I had to grapple with this guy. And you do these moves, and then you tap, because like, okay, yeah, that hurts. Like, stop it now.
Yeah.
And I tapped, and he would not, and he kept going. And I tapped harder, and he was doing an arm bar. And when you do an arm bar, you're bending your elbow in the wrong way. And it hurt super bad. So he finally let go, and then it was my turn to do it to him. But instead of doing the arm bar, I got on the front mount and just laid and punched him straight in the face. And it felt so good to punch him. And then he rolled me over, and then we started fighting, and then he like elbowed me in the face. So I didn't get a punch. I got an elbow. And then we got broken up. But that was my like one adult fight. But like kid fights, I got in kid fights. Like I would go to the youth center. Like both my parents worked, and so after school on the Air Force base that we lived on, there was just like the big gym / hangout kind of area, and they had little clusters of classroom type things by age. And I remember every time we would go out on the playground, they had the bigger kids. And I don't really remember being made fun of, but I remember like really having beef with these couple people. And I remember we would go out there and they would say something again. It wasn't just like bullying, but it was like, we're going to fight. And I would just fight these kids. And it felt awesome to fight those kids. And I would like, my shirt would be all jacked up, and like I would get in trouble. And I have to go sit in like the office where like the gym, whatever, youth center administrator people would be like, my dad would have to come pick me up. And I remember it not really being a thing, and I just kind of grew out of it. But in like middle school and high school, like I got along with everybody.
Yeah.
Like I like to make light of things. I made jokes a lot, and I never really had any kind of animosity toward anybody, and I don't think anybody had that toward me. So I never really had that kind of experience. I grew out of it. And then, yeah, in the Army, that butthole in the Army. It felt real good to punch that guy right in his face. There were a couple people I didn't get in a fight. A couple other people got in fights over really dumb things. You have a lot of testosterone in that area, and then they're teaching you to be this alpha person in a group of like 40 other alphas.
Right.
People got fights. And then to save themselves, like, because fighting, you would get in trouble. And you would get in trouble, and you would have to like do some physical punishment, or you'd have to do additional duty. And I remember people would fight, and then the very next morning at like 5 a.m. when the drill instructor would come in, the drill sergeant would come in, somebody's got a black eye or like a busted up nose. And they're like, what happened? Who's in here fighting? And they're like, I hit my face on the bathroom door. Somebody was coming out of the bathroom, and then he hit me in the face, drill sergeant. And he's like, well, that's a load of crap. But it was like, yeah, that's what happened. And he turned around to everybody, and everybody's like, yep, drill sergeant, that's what happened. That bathroom door. And at least 5 people got hit by this bathroom door that they took the bathroom door off so that we couldn't claim that we got hit by the bathroom door. Dang. And then this one time, this is a stupid story. We had this big open bay with bunk beds that we lived in. And then there was a adjoining kind of hallway. It was like a laundry room, which actually had washing machines and stuff in it. And then there was another bay, but it was empty. And they had a rule that you couldn't wash your clothes at night. So we had to like wash our uniforms, like we're rolling around in the mud, but you still had every morning, you better have a clean uniform. No excuses. Don't care.
How many uniforms did you have to
2.
make that possible? Good grief.
Yeah. And so you would hang up your muddy one, put on your clean one, and then your muddy one better be washed, all in the time where you would be done around 6, and then you'd have to wake up and be standing up ready at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. 40 people had to use one set of washing machines. And so this one kid forgot to wash his uniform. So he we broke open the lock, snuck into the laundry room just so homeboy could wash his uniform and not get in trouble the next day. But when he did that, he locked himself in because the door locked from the wrong side and we could not get him out. And so he's like banging on this door, freaking out at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he tried to like climb through the ceiling tiles, and that didn't work. And so me and a couple other people, like I knew how to kind of pick locks. And so we were jimmying open the lock, and he was directly on the other side of the door that swung toward him. We opened the door. As he was pulling on the door, it swung open and ripped his toenail off.
Ooh. Ow.
And bled all over the place. So like we were just taught like some medical stuff. So we're like rendering medical attention to this guy. And he's standing there in the morning with like, because we had to wear PT uniforms. It was like a t-shirt and some shorts. So he's got like this big bloody sock and like can't stand up straight because his toe is hurting. He goes like, what's wrong with you? And it was like, the bathroom door got me. Y'all don't have a bathroom door. It was the weirdest thing. That bathroom door caused so many casualties in that platoon. It was so great.
That's hilarious.
A bunch of dummies. Dumb people.
I just imagine that situation being Stripes, like the movie Stripes, is just. I know it's
Stripes
the movie,
was
I
like
get it.
the most chill. Like I remember that time when the drill sergeant like sat down and like talked to everybody. And it was like, nobody touch my stuff or I kill you. Like you didn't have that. The drill sergeant was the most ominous, scary, like angry figment. Everything was like, don't let that person catch you, or do everything you can to not be noticed by that person. Which was like, if you just do the right thing, you won't be noticed.
Right.
And even we figured it out that if everybody did the wrong thing unanimously, you would confuse them to the point where they wouldn't know that it was wrong. And we found that out early on. And it had a thing like, if everybody's wrong, we're all right.
Right.
And we used that to our advantage a couple times. And you just stand there and they just wouldn't notice because nothing would look out of place.
Right. That's funny. As far as fights, like me punching, I think that's one of the things is I'm always curious who does the first punch in something like that. Because, you know, you have a natural response to punch back. Usually.
I think some people do. I think
so.
the fight or flight is very, very real. And I don't think people know what they're going to do until they get punched in the face.
But I think fewer people have the, I'm going to take the first step and be aggressive.
Oh, the aggressor?
To the point to punch. So, like, I typically would not be that person, I don't think. I can think of one time where I jumped over a couch and flattened this kid in, like, maybe 7th grade. My last name rhymes with a derogatory term towards gay people. And so, growing up, I would get that a lot. Yeah. It was just, you know, one of those dumb things that kids yell at other people. And this kid just pushed it. I was spending a night at my friend Darren. I was spending a night at his house. Did it all the time. His little brother, Brian, and this other kid were really good friends. So they always spent the night at the same time. So they were a couple of years younger than us. Kind of annoying. You know, would always mess with us while we were trying to play video games and stuff. And this kid just pushed me to the point. And I remember I was standing there in front of the Nintendo, holding the controller, and he was behind me, behind the couch. And he said that, and I dropped the controller and turned around and did one step over the couch and, like, did a flying single punch.
Nice.
And knocked him down. That's all I remember. I don't remember how far it went past that. But I don't think, like, as an adult, I can't imagine a situation where me being an aggressor to the point of punching someone would do anybody any good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe if I was, like, jacked and, like, real big and could take somebody down in one punch or something, but it feels like me, it would just be starting something that I could not finish. And, like, making a situation worse, no matter what the situation was. But
I have that Ron Swanson kind of thing when you just, like, look or listen to somebody, and you're like, that person needs to get punched in the face. Like, for many reasons.
Yeah.
They just need... I feel like some people have never experienced being punched in the face. And I think it's a deterrent for a lot of personal behavior.
I could see that.
And there's a lot of people. I'm just like, that person needs to get punched in the face. And I feel like I would be doing the world a service. And I know that probably wouldn't stand up in court, but I could be quite convincing at times.
Your Honor, I was trying to help you out. In case you ever ran into this person in the real world.
Welcome.
Yeah, I can't. I agree with you. There are a lot of people who could use a good punch in the face, but I don't think that I'm the one to administer that. I don't think so. You could use a good kiss. There's that too.
My oldest son punched a kid in the throat. We talk about that?
I don't think so.
Oh yeah. He did Boy Scouts for a little while. Or it was like the church version of Boy Scouts, because where we lived in Georgia, there wasn't a Boy Scout troop. But he didn't like it. Like, he was okay with it. They weren't like his cool pals. They were just like, he would be hanging around, and like, if something was interesting, he would engage, and if not, he could care less. But one time, the scout leader guy, for lack of a better term, I don't know what they called it, like, his son was in the group, and his son was like really rambunctious, and it was like the energetic, like, yeah kind of kid. And that's not my son. Well, so the story goes from the scout leader guy.
So the story goes.
Yeah. They were learning about first aid, and they had like cold spray, like that really cold spray on a wound, try to help not feel so bad. And he was like, okay, everybody come up and like just experience this thing. It's kind of fun. They're kids like, oh, it's neat. And they're like, oh, it's cold. And my son was like, I don't want that. And the scout leader guy was like, okay, well, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of cold. And he's like, no, I don't want it. And so the kid, scout leader's son, rambunctious kid, grabs my son's arm. He's like, no, come do it. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And it keeps on pulling on him. And he's like, I don't want to. Apparently my oldest son reared back, who's 10 now. He was 6 at the time, maybe, before we moved to the RV. Reared back and just punched this kid straight in the throat. To the point where he like fell on the ground, coughing and crying. And the guy told me all about this. I'm like, oh man, I am sorry. He was like, don't be. It was my son's problem. Your son did exactly what I would have told my son to do in that moment. Yeah. He's like, he does not need to be in trouble. He's like, talk to him all day, but he does not need to be in trouble for this. He stood up for himself. And my son came to me. I picked him up. He was crying. And we had a very good heart-to-heart. And that happened because one of the other times they had this bigger kid, which is like picking him up and like being weird with him. Just like being this dominant thing, not being mean, but just like picking him up. And you could tell, I could tell when I looked at him, like my son didn't like it. And I asked him, like, do you like it when he does? He goes, no, I don't like it. I'm like, well, then tell him to stop. He's like, well, I told him to stop. I'm like, no, you went, stop. In like a nervous, you don't know what to do, so you're kind of giggle kind of way. Like, you have to be assertive. You have to, beyond a shadow of doubt, let somebody know what they are doing. You do not want it to continue. I was like, and if you are assertive like that, and that person continues to do that thing where you feel like you cannot get away, like, punch that kid in the face. And he like looked at me all shocked, like I just gave him permission to punch somebody. I'm like, under those conditions, you are allowed to punch that kid right in the face and then get away and go tell somebody. Yeah. And then next time I come back, Den Master Dave comes to meet me at the door. He's like, oh, your son just punched this kid in the throat. And I'm like, oh.
He said you said it was fun.
Yeah. And then I had that thing and we came to peace with it. And I don't know about proud, but it was one of those moments where I'm like, no, you stood up for yourself. And please stand up for yourself. Do not, like you're saying, be the aggressor. There's no reason for you to be the aggressor. But stand up for yourself. Make your point known aggressively. And if you cannot get out of that situation, then you get out of that situation. Yeah. You move people.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through that with all of my kids in different things, different situations. Most of the time, it's between them. Like, I've given my younger 3 permission to punch the oldest one in the face. They all have a particular situation unique to them. If he does this to you again, if he says this again, if he acts this way again, you have my permission to get one single punch to his face wherever you want to do
like
it.
Like execution style where he has to stand there
and
take it like
just
Michael Scott?
No, not necessarily, but like without retribution.
Got it.
I'm not going to be mad at you. You will be justified one time in this particular situation. And every time I do that, it's happened with each one of them, multiples sometimes. My oldest is like, looks at me like, what are you doing? Like, you can't. And I'm like, man, this is the end of the line. I've given you chances. I've told you to stop doing this. I've given, whatever the situation is, this is not the first, instance. This is end of the line. You deserve it. And if you get it, you deserve it. So just be aware that they're not always going to be smaller than you. Yep. And they still have that permission. So if you keep pushing it, you're going to get punched in the face. So far, I don't think he's gotten punched in the face.
My brother is...
He probably wouldn't tell me if he had. He'd be embarrassed. But
yeah. My brother is 3 years older than me. And you talked about sharing a room from the Wonder Years. I was so happy when I did not have to share a room with my brother. We became much more civil and closer when we were not on the other side of the room from each other. We would fight. We would fight so much. And my mom would get so mad that we would fight each other. But one time she revealed that she was upset that we were fighting because we were messing up her stuff. Which I can see now as a parent, like saying that. Like, I paid money for that thing and you guys just were fighting and now you broke it. Which makes logical sense as an adult. But at the time, it's like, oh, you care more about that thing than you do about us fighting. So she mandated that we would go outside in the backyard and we would fight. She would referee the fight. We had to start on our knees and she would say fight and we would go all out until there was blood, until somebody tapped or till somebody was like hurt. And she would stand on the deck like the game master and just relish it. And we would get it out in the yard. And I remember my knee kind of pops sometimes because my brother like jumped on me and bent me backwards and my knee popped out.
Ooh.
Like, yeah, it hurt so bad. And then another time I had broken my arm in an unrelated incident and we started fighting. And he was like, outside now. And my mom was like, are you serious? She's like, he has a cast on his arm. He's like, no, this is garbage. And so like we went out there and he was all puffed up and angry. And I remember just taking his cast and him like charging at me. And I just upside his head with my cast and cut him above his eye. And he started bleeding. And mom was like, that's it. Fight's over.
So this was a thing. Like, and it wasn't just like a one time I'm fed up with it.
It was condoned. It was not a tradition. It was a thing that we had to work through in our adolescence. It was like the horn was blown and all the townspeople came around to watch the two princes stupidly punch each other in the backyard.
Two idiots beat each other up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And then we would just be so tired and she would just stand there and she's like, are you done? You feel better? Okay, let's go. Let's get back to doing what we're doing. Like, we got some mac and cheese to eat or Family Matters about to come on or whatever. And she would just stand there like the Hunger Games and just watch.
That's kind of funny. I mean, I know that there could be limits, to where that would be a bad thing and somebody could actually get really hurt. But it is kind of smart to like have a way to let your kids just get the thing out that they need to get out, because otherwise it's just going to keep being there, It
pent up. We had so much aggression toward each other, and I don't really recall why. And he is in the Navy now. And I remember when he was out to sea one time, like me talking to his wife, this was not long ago. And I remember thinking, like in the story, I'm like, God, we used to fight because of this and because of this. And then I remember my sister-in-law and my wife both going like, it sounds like you were the bad person in all of those situations. It sounds like you were the aggressor. You sound like a pretty terrible brother. And then I kind of came to that realization. And I'm like, oh, maybe I kind of was. But whatever, it is what it is.
I'm pretty happy that our kids, they, bicker, but they don't fight. They're pretty good at, even if they get at each other, they can kind of work it out quickly or move on past it quickly, which is pretty fantastic because I know a lot of siblings will just like harbor stuff. Like they just continue to be annoyed and it carries over day to day. And our kids don't really have that, which is, I'm really glad of.
Our kids jockey for position, which I think is hilarious because none of it matters. And my daughter, most of the time, is the aggressor. Like she fights for the alpha position in the house. When the other two don't care as much, but they will respond to her. But she is a lot of the times the one that I will easily look at and go like, you started this, didn't you? And she makes her little face. I'm like, girl, you gotta quit.
Yeah, I there's been a few things recently where the kids have been kind of at each other, and it's like I want to let it play out, but you just get fed up with certain things like that. And the other day they were, I remember there's some food or something, and there was like an extra thing, and they were complaining about, well, I wanted it, and they were like, okay, well, fine, we'll split it. And I immediately went into the part of the Bible where, like, it's my baby. No, it's my baby. Yep. Okay, cut the baby in half. And I've pulled that type of thing on them so many times, and it really does, like, oh, okay, well, hang on a second. But in this case, I heard something years ago where two kids were fighting. It was a story about something else, but two kids were fighting over this sandwich, and the solution of the parent was one kid gets to cut it in half, the other kid gets to pick which half they want. And I'm like, oh, that's really smart, because
psychological warfare.
Yeah, the first kid is then incentivized to be as fair as possible, because if they are not, it's going to work against them. And so I've started like looking for ways, and I can't think of another example at the moment, but started looking for ways to make that type of thing how they figure it out among themselves. I don't have to do it, but like, here are the rules, go figure it out. I did that with whatever this thing was that they were trying to eat the other day, and totally worked. Like, that put an end to it.
Cool.
One of them cut it in half, and they both got part, and they ate it, and I didn't have to hear anything else about it. But kids are interesting. The ways that you have to come up to just keep the peace sometimes is a little wacky.
I love the not like lazy, figure it out on your own. Like, I can't be bothered with this. But I love it when I tell my 3 to, like, you guys have to go come up with a solution to this and then present it to me. Because what's happening right now is not working. You will all get nothing, and I will take the thing that you're fighting over and I will just lavish in it.
Yeah.
So if you don't want that to happen, you better come up with a solution between yourself, because I don't care enough about this thing not to just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Which would just kind of like make you guys super mad. So that right now is the option on the table.
That is, I mean, it sounds a little harsh, I guess, but that is honestly one of my defaults for, I'm like, and I tell the kids this all the time, I don't care about this stuff. I don't care about the things in our house. I don't care about the things that you cherish, the physical things. I don't care what you got for your birthday.
Yep.
If it causes a problem, it goes away.
Yep.
Because we don't need things in our lives that are going to add problems to the existing like stuff that we have to deal with. And oh, you got a dangler there. And that ends up being like, and I mean that when I say that, like I will throw the PS5 or PS4 or Switch or whatever it is that we're talking about in the garbage can, because this stuff's all going to burn someday
with
anyway.
A smile on my face.
So I don't care. If it causes a problem, it can leave our home. And I've done that a couple of times. It's been a long time since I've had to do that. But it set the precedent enough that when I say that, they know that they got to really back off and figure out how to deal with whatever it is. But I think it can be really super easy to be like, well, I'm just going to take this thing away. You'll get it back when you can get along.
Yeah.
Well, then they have like a different thing, because then they just have to figure out.
They're faking it.
Yeah, they have to get along long enough to get the thing back and then fight about it again.
Sorry. Our kids have been living out the 3-point apology plan.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of worked.
Yeah.
My daughter, God bless that girl, man, she will just straight up attack somebody for the smallest infraction. She tried to bite somebody the other day, and she's, 5? She savagely attacked my middle son over something dumb, and I got onto her, and I'm like, you need to apologize. Sorry for attacking you. I'm sorry it made you feel hurt. I won't do it again. I'm like, it's not working. Not working because you don't care.
Sorry, you're a bad actor.
Yep. Savages. All right, I need to go find some batteries real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, what am I going to do? I can't run this show by myself. How much time do we have left? Oh, we're like a good 50-something odd minutes in. Let's wrap this one up. I should wrap up the whole show while Josh isn't here. That'll be fun. Okay, where can people find you? Oh, they can't because you're not here? Bummer. Sorry about that. You can find all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff.
I got to turn the lights on.
Okay, so this is putting a battery in and finishing the
That's
thing?
Riz.
I'm actually putting on the last piece of the model, too.
Oh, well, this is cool. So we can
move on.
Pro and con stalling. Hey.
Well, you can find him at Josh Makes Stuff on all the stuff, but he's
Josh
not...
_.
Sorry, Josh _
There is some dude who made like 4 things, and one of them was whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the things that this Josh
he must have really liked
stuff
that one thing that guy made.
Was headway on getting a name. Boop boop. Hey-o.
Neat.
Lights on.
Yeah, all you listeners on the podcast, look at those lights.
I gotta get rid of this. Just close up. We need to turn off all of the lights in the room.
All right, so for anybody that's listening, his light kit is installed.
Oh, that is cool.
And it's got like safari lights up
lights
top.
on the inside.
Oh, wow, it does. That's awesome.
This is neat.
That's pretty slick.
Yep. My kids are gonna run the battery low on the Land Rover.
Yep. It'll work just as well as every other Land Rover. Ayo! Just kidding.
True.
Just kidding. All right. Where can people find you?
At the aforementioned Josh _Make Stuff.
And you can find us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff. Big thanks to our Maker Alliance members. We've got some new ones.
That's today.
Yes. After this, we have a monthly hangout where we all get on a video call and we chat about what we're working on and stuff. And it's a lot of fun. Cool group of people. So we're going to go do that. Big thanks to them. And thank you for listening and for watching or whatever you're doing. Tell somebody about the show if you think there's somebody that might enjoy it. We appreciate that.
So we're just all trying to figure it out.
Yes, that is true. I guess that's it.
Yep.
So see you next time.
Bye-bye.